Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. So previously on the CRF150R rebuild, we got the frame powder coated and we pressed on new bearings to the steering stem and got that installed into our nice clean frame. Today we're going to be working on the swing arm, the rear shock, the linkage, and I'm going to be tossing the front forks back into the frame. Alright, let's get started. So there's a bunch of stuff I want to do to the swing arm. I've got a new chain guard coming. I want to clean up the linkage, get that all nice and tidy. I've got a bearing kit for the swing arm here up in front. I also want to clean up this rear chain guide here. It looks like it was just kind of hacked off. I'd love to just clean this edge up and then cut this weld down here and pop this plate off. Also going to take off these graphics and the GoPro mounts. We got a new set coming, and that should do it. Other than that, just kind of see if we can polish it up a little bit. And maybe we can peel up an edge here. Oh, that's coming off way easier than I thought it would. Yeah, broke at the GoPro mat. Probably gonna be really hot. It's warm. There we go. Not nearly as clean as the other side, but it did come off pretty easily. You can actually see like a Renthal decal here. See if we can use some goof off to get that residue. Alright, I think I got the majority of the adhesive off. Not my finest work, but that cleaned up pretty nicely. I did come down at a little bit too sharp of an angle and gouge it a bit. But we got rid of that sharp protruding bit, and this is the last little remnant of this bracket that was right here, which I think looks way better. And I'll go through and I'll hit this with the cleaning wheel and then maybe try and blend it a little bit so it doesn't look like it's straight, just, you know, ground down with some sandpaper. I do also want to take this off. The sticker's just been bashed around a little bit too much. Normally I like the OEM stickers, but this one I think has to go. Much better. Alright, so let's tackle the bearing and seal kit for the swing arm here. These things are extra crusty. So now I'm going to get the bearings out of the swing arm. They're actually in great condition, but I have a replacement set. So like I've been saying while I'm in here, might as well get it out. So I've got a Motion Pro bearing driver set, and we're going to end up pressing the bearings out and then the new ones back in. The driver set doesn't actually come with the cup that sits on here, so I'm just using a socket. Alright, that's nice and squared up. I am going to hit this with just a little bit of heat, see if I can free up that bearing a little bit easier. There's our bearing. A little bit of rust on the outer race. Looks fine on the inside though. Okay, quite literally there's just like a bunch of dirt coming out of this thing. You can kind of see in there all the dirt that came out of the swing arm into the bore, so we're going to clean that out. There's our other bearing. So I probably should have showed this before, but I did put a scribe mark on the press tool here, which shows how far the bearing is seated into the swing arm, because there's no like lip in there to actually catch it. All right, we've got our new bearing fresh from the freezer, and we're gonna have to grease it up. Got our grease here. Gonna put a nice liberal amount in there. A little bit on the outside as well. We're going to work it into the rollers as best we can. Now we're going to set that on our bearing installer tool, slide that into the bore. Try and line it up as best we can so that it's going in straight. Slight touch of heat again. Yeah, perfect. So we're at that mark there, and that mark just behind the grease there. And now I've got some fresh bearings in the swing arm. So next up we're going to put the collars in, but before I do, just another dab of grease in there. Any that got squeezed out or displaced as we were pressing them in. So the kit comes with new seals and collars, which is nice. The seals are the same size for both sides of each arm of the swing arm, which is nice too. You don't have to try and figure out which is which. Just gonna take a little grease, work it around, and we're gonna start with the insides first. All right, so that is even with the lip of the swing arm here. All right, and that one's flush too. So next we're going to take our collars, grease them up a bit, and drop them down onto the bearing. And we're going to take our seals, some more grease again, and we're going to work it in between the collar and the swing arm here. And we just want it flush with the outside of the swing arm. All right, that one's flush. This one's sunk down a little too far, so what you can do is you can push up on this because it's got the back face, and you can drag in. Yeah. Really comes in handy to have like just a flat die that you can just press on it, because it applies pressure evenly across and usually sets it nice in there. Last but not least, we have the spacers, and the shorter one goes on the left hand side of the bike. I know it's confusing because this is actually spun around right now, but this is the left side here. Hit that with some lube. There we go. The longer of the two goes on the right side of the bike. We're just going to clean up the grease that got everywhere, and that's job done on changing the bearings and the seals on the swing arm. So I picked up a chain guard from UFO. Kind of curious to see how this fits compared to the stock. I also picked up some new screws from Honda. I don't know about this one. Oh yeah, it fits. Just bent weird. So let's start securing it up top, and then we'll curve it around. This should just be like this. It's a little better. It doesn't quite hug it like the stock one does. But we'll run it, see how it does. If it's awful, I'll just replace it with the stock. And last but not least for the swing arm, we're just going to pop the rear brake holder on for the moment. Or we'll have to undo this screw and put the clip on when we put the brake on, but keep this organized. Overall, pretty happy with how the swing arm came out. I don't know, what do you think? It's a pretty refreshed little swing arm there. Let's go pop it over by the bike. So I picked up a bearing kit for the top of the shock here. This is just kind of old and crusty. A little bit of rust on the inside of this. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but the bearing has just a bit of surface rust on it. And we'll pull these seals out as well. This might be a bit of a nightmare, but I'm going to try and use the vise to press out the bearing in the top of the shock. We've got a large socket on the back end here to catch the bearing, and then I'll use a small socket up front to push it through. Alright, so 15 millimeter fits right on the bearing race pretty nicely, and then I've got, what is this, 7/8 to catch it. Kind of hold that in there. Super awkward with just myself. Bam. And there's our bearing. Got some waterproof grease here. Just pack that into the bearing. Alright, we've got the bearing lightly set in there. Receiving socket and our 15 mil here. This is going to be incredibly hard to do with one hand, or two hands. Just two hands. Line everything up here. There we go. Just gotta squeeze that on in. Alright, I'm gonna pull this out and check its position before we go too much further. Looks like we've got a little ways to go. Maybe just like a quarter turn, probably. All right, now that we've got that in there and it's even on each side, just put a little bit more grease in there. Now we're going to grab our seals. Dab of grease on there as well. And the flat side was facing inwards. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that here. Let's pop these in. All right, that one's in. Flush around the outside. Perfect. And that's job done. It looks much better than these old ones here. So in an effort to make the frame more stable to bolt more stuff onto, I'm going to put the front forks on and then rest them on something. That way it's leaning on those instead of like tipping back and forth constantly. Once I get the engine in and the rear suspension on, it should balance pretty evenly. Those were just hand threaded on. That was enough to keep the fork bound up. Got the nice shined up linkage attached to the swing arm here. Just hit it with a cleaning wheel, nothing else. Temporarily get the swing arm in here. Gonna have to pull it out when we get the engine in. Ah, there we go. Oop. Did that out of order. I knew there was one that needed to be done before the other. So the torque specs for everything attached to the linkage, they're 33 foot-pounds each. I'm just gonna hit the shock right now since it's gonna be covered by this in a second. Got it. So the top shock mount here is also 33 foot-pounds. It's nice and easy to remember for all of them. As we wait for the last click here, that's going to be the end of this video. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garage, and I'll see you on the next one.